What we really wanted to do with the Content Analyst system, we were seeing a lot of the capabilities ultimately being provided to the review piece, which ultimately is a fraction of the overall data associated with a case. Early on in a case, let's face it, the legal teams are inquisitive. They've gone to some of the most prestigious institutions in the world and to hone their craft in asking the right questions and seeking the right answers. The TunnelVision product is around helping you to answer those questions, the who, the what, the where, the when, what they're talking about, how they interrelate. The CAAT solution allowed us to build that dimensionality into the system. So working within the application, there may be certain people of interest that I identify, and you'll notice that closest concepts, these are predefined concepts I've identified as kind of points of interest. I can see how those interrelate with what I'm doing here in the application. I'm also able to leverage a lot of the email threading capabilities here within the application as well, and ultimately use these to better drive what it is that I'm looking for. As you can see here at the top of the screen, I'm not going to focus in on 65,000 total records. My goal is to find the things that matter within those 65,000 records, and I can do so by simply clicking on things that are of interest here. So we'll go ahead and start with several of the concept searches that we've applied here. Anything I see I want to use, I can click on it, and by clicking, you'll notice that the items will show up here on the right-hand side, and I can ultimately add those as a filter. So now I've applied those two concepts to get down to something that's a little bit more manageable. Now I may want to know, okay, who's talking about those materials? What time frames are covered? Maybe 2000's a year of interest. I want to see how things were leading up to the time of the lawsuit. So I can ultimately apply the year 2000 as a filter. I can add that to my breadcrumb. Now I'm down to 685 documents, even more manageable. Now I want to see who's talking about it. I want to know what they're talking about so I can see kind of the context around their conversations. I want to see what other concepts hit within this particular population and see if there's anything that I might identify as not of interest. As I move further down into the actual data set, I can then start to understand individual characteristics, a lot of these driven by CAAT. Looking at domains, so I could focus in on why is AOL.com a domain of interest here within my set. I can see where that exists, the time frames that are covered. I'm able to see who's talking about the various topics within our scope, to see who's communicating one-on-one, who's in small groups, and who's kind of communicating with the world. Are they replies? Are they emails, start of emails, or am I forwarding materials here? And then ultimately, who they're speaking with and when and what they're talking about. So, the goal here is with each click to be able to tell a comprehensive story of your data and a complete answer, providing you a capability to then preserve those answers to your data and turn this data set into a knowledge base. So the goal in building our UI or user interface was so that people could apply analytics to anything. The key here is when you start a case, you're trying to understand what the facts are so that you can build your strategy on facts and you can prioritize your data on facts. We wanted to create a way for you to be able to guide you to the key information and then leverage the CAAT suite to really further understand that data set and really be able to go through and validate that data set. The key is if you think of the user interface as a frequently asked question, as you get to the answers, you have the ability to save and categorize your results. And in doing so, getting back to the near dupes and email threading, you have the ability to expand on what's there. You have the ability to apply it to any of the various categories. So you have that capability, and you certainly have the opportunity to leverage any of the points of interest that you've found around the way to do objective things like perhaps focus in on a given custodian. So if I want to look at David Delaney here as one of my custodians, I can simply click on David Delaney, adds it to the grouping window, at which point I can then add it as a filter. So instead of dealing with 65,000 records, I'm dealing with 3,900. Within that, I have the option to look at objective things like time. I might ask the question here, why does he have much less information in 2001 than 2000? But most importantly, who's talking and really using the conceptual search capabilities to see what he's talking about that's of interest to me in this case in terms of the facts, who those conversations are with, and then ultimately, who the actual participants are. From there, I can start to drill into the actual email conversations or search results to see how they interact with one another and really start to drive into a key set of data